Let's talk a little bit about automation in Logic Pro. What does automation mean? Automation refers to letting the program automatically perform a task for you over time. In this case, it's moving faders, turning knobs on an audio effect or synth, or activating and deactivating switches for you. To activate automation mode on a software instrument, audio, or bus channel, press A to open up Automation View, or use this switch. They do the same thing. By activating automation mode, you'll have view of automation lanes for every single individual channel in your arrangement window. By default, automation in Logic will be set to the read automation mode and the volume automation parameter. You can see I currently have a plucked bass and a synth pad that have volume automation applied to them. Opening up automation mode doesn't necessarily mean that automation is active for a channel. For example, on this pad down here, you can see there's a thin gray line down the middle of the track. To activate automation mode, simply click on it. The thin gray line turns into a bright yellow line, and now you know that you have automation applied to that channel. By clicking on the yellow line again, I can add an additional automation point. Once you've created another automation point, you can move that automation point up, down, left, or right to change, in this case, the volume fader over a particular period of time. So I could take my volume, which is currently at minus 4.7 decibels, and let's say I want to bring it down at bar 17. Now I've created an automation line from minus 4.7 decibels to minus 62 decibels from bar 1 to bar 17. I'll solo this instrument and play back the track so you can hear this volume automation in action. That's the simplest example of using automation in your project. A linear volume automation line. Once you've created multiple automation points, you have a couple of different types of adjustments for fine-tuning the automation curve to your liking. By holding Shift and Control on your keyboard, you can see my cursor change here, and then you can drag the line to add different types of curves to the, in this case, volume change. Moving left and right also gives you a couple different options for changing the curve. I'm not 100% sure, but I think this is called a Bezier curve. Going deeper into automation mode, we have 4 functions here: read, touch, latch, and write. Most of the time you're going to be using the read mode to play back any changes that you've drawn in to your automation lanes. The other most commonly used one is the latch function. The latch mode will allow you to connect certain parameters of a synth or audio effect plugin to an automation line here in Automation View. For this example, I'm going to open up SynthMaster 1 Synth on this pad sound I have here, and let's say I want to control the filter 1 cutoff frequency. I want to have it start lower and open up over time, and I want to automate it from low to high from bar 17 to 33. To do that, I'll change the automation mode from read to latch. Then I'll go back to the synth and move the knob for filter 1 cutoff. You can see here that the automation parameter immediately latched to the filter 1 cutoff in my SynthMaster 1 synth. I'll activate the automation lane here, and I can click to create a point here at 17, click to create a point at 33, and I'll bring this line down, and you can see on the synth it's also turning this cutoff frequency down here. So here's what that sounds like. Once I finish creating that automation change for the filter 1 cutoff frequency in my synth, I can change the latch mode back to read, and during playback, Logic will automatically move that knob for me, in this case changing the cutoff frequency from low to high. But you can apply this to pretty much any other parameter for any synth or audio effect plugin. Here's an example of how to automate a parameter on an effect plugin. I currently have a drum kit right here, and I'll add a tape delay to it. Let's say I want to control the feedback of my tape delay. I'll change the automation mode from read to latch. I'll turn the knob for feedback. The feedback parameter is now connected to this automation lane. I can click in to create a couple points and adjust the setting to where I want it. I'll change Latch back to read and play back the drum kit. You can also manually access any parameter in any plugin by going over here to the automation parameter, finding the plugin that you'd like to change the parameter in, and you can see here there's every single setting for the SynthMaster 1 synth, but I find that using the Latch function makes it very easy to quickly find the control on the synth you want to change without having to go into this menu and go through all of these options. To better demonstrate the difference between the Automation Touch and Automation Latch mode, I'm going to connect my MIDI keyboard to Logic and use one of the knobs built into the keyboard to control that same cutoff frequency knob in SynthMaster. The easiest way I've found to control a parameter in a synth using your MIDI keyboard is to go into Latch mode, click on the knob for the parameter you'd like to change. Make sure that your MIDI keyboard is on. Then go to Logic Pro X, Control Surfaces, and Learn Assignment for Filter 1 Cutoff. Now I'm going to turn the knob on my keyboard that I want to use to control that Filter 1 cutoff frequency. And Logic intelligently connects the knob I just turned to that parameter in the synth. Now you can leave this menu. As you can see, when I turn the knob on my keyboard, I'm now changing the cutoff frequency for Filter 1. Using the Latch function, Logic will automatically create points as you turn the knob. The main difference between the Latch function and the Touch function is that if I go on to Touch instead of using Latch, and remove the automation I've created, when I play back the track and turn the knob, it's going to still write in the automation changes I've made, but when I stop moving the knob, it's going to automatically move that parameter back to its default setting. That's usually why I find the Latch function much more useful than the Touch function. Any change I'm making to the parameter by turning that knob, I want it to stay as opposed to reset to its default value when I stop turning the knob. There are definitely instances where Touch could be more useful, but for my production, I find Latch to be the most useful. Moving on to Write. As Logic tells you here, the Write mode erases multiple parameters in one go without touching anything, so it's normally more useful to use Latch or Touch. Now if I play back the track with the Write mode on, it's going to overwrite any changes to the parameters that I've made here on my automation line. Overall, that's a pretty basic introduction to how to activate and use automation and use different automation modes in Logic Pro. I hope you found this useful. If you did, feel free and subscribe, and I'm going to release more tutorials like this. Thanks for watching.